All right. I'm so excited for this session, everyone. Thank you all for joining. We are now joined by Hugh O'Donnell, who's the Director of Growth at Creative Converters. They're a partner agency of ours, and if I can say, they're they are the leaders in TikTok marketing in Australia, a Gen Z agency through and through. So, if this is a place you're working with, I think after this session, you're going to want to talk to Hugh. He knows TikTok and creative content for TikTok backwards and forwards. And we're also joined by Ben Panther, who's the strategic partnerships manager at TikTok. So we're really going to get both sides of the equation here. And we're going to be talking about community commerce and really the changing dynamics of how people buy and how people find products online. We're also going to try something a little bit different, which is, Hugh and Ben are so in the middle of this content. They know it so deeply, and they work with it every day. And so I'm going to actually be here to kind of ask questions as we go. I'll be monitoring the chat, and so I can bring your questions directly into the conversation. And I'll also be, bringing my own questions, based on what they're saying. So I think it's going to be a really fun session. And Hugh, Ben, I'm going to hand it over to you. I'll try not to interrupt at the wrong moment, but we'll keep it interactive and conversational. And go for it.
Amazing. Well, firstly, thanks for the flattering introduction. I'm blushing, so appreciate it.
And it's fun,
to chat on this. Me and Benny Panther literally just met a few days ago, so it's been fun preparing for this, and we're really excited to share some knowledge with you guys today. I suppose with my journey through Creative Converters, it's been about constantly evolving content and strategies for brands over the last 3.5 years, starting with our own brand and learning through innovating over time. And I suppose where Ben's going to come into play is really through that amazing insight through being in TikTok with one of the managers. So we're really excited to bounce off each other for today. So I suppose to get into the depths of what we want to talk about today, I know for this whole conference, everyone's been talking about lifetime value. It's a big part of e-commerce. It's a big part of brand strategy, and it's probably the most critical path to success for brands. We all know the difference between $1 million brand and a $20 million brand is in their lifetime value, right? But the question is, how do we build lifetime value? How do we create community? How do we create connection? Especially in 2023, when things have shifted so dramatically over the last even 3 to 6 months with a new platform like TikTok coming into play, iOS, COVID, all of this stuff has happened to revolutionize the way that we all interact with our clients, and as a customer, how we interact with the brand. So I suppose to kick things off, Benny's going to chat a little bit more about the importance of entertainment, and then I'll dive into the depths of community, my experience with brands, and we'll talk you through some exciting new updates about TikTok and really what you guys need to be thinking about as a brand, as a marketing manager in 2023 so that you can build lifetime value.
Awesome. Hugh, Ben, guys, thank you so much for the introduction. It's a pleasure to be talking to you guys all today. I know this conference has been something that I think a lot of us in terms of the industry is coming together on as well. And TikTok being a part of that is really exciting. The platform's been around for a while now, and I think that concept shift from brands on TikTok is now the stage we're in. I feel like everyone's begged the question, when do I get on TikTok? How do I get on TikTok as well? And that's what we're here to do today, is just really dive into that. But I think whenever we're kind of talking around these concepts, is kind of breaking apart TikTok as the platform as well. Hugh and the team have worked a lot in terms of getting brands and changing their mindset of it as well. But in terms of TikTok in general, what is kind of TikTok? And that is, it's a new world of entertainment. Gone are the days of kind of comparing it to another platform. It's completely different. It's not built on a social one. It's built on entertainment as well. And in fact, now over 1 billion monthly active users come to TikTok and spend over a movie's length of content every day on this platform. Mm-hmm. So when you're wondering where the attention shift has gone, it's on TikTok now. Over a movie's length, just let that resonate for a little bit as well. Significant time is getting spent on this platform, and then that is for a few reasons. So one of the big things on TikTok is that be able to reach new audiences. And Hugh and the team will kind of talk through this a lot around how they've kind of shifted the way of creating content. And that's in fact, if users are spending less time now watching TV, video or streaming content and now spending it on TikTok as well. You know, that mindset, which will kind of change through from an influencer to creator, is the part of TikTok and really driving that home. The second piece is the big shift that happened in the industry for the past couple of years was brands were silenced. And now on TikTok, sound is like prevalent. You have to have sound on. The entire platform is based on that concept. The second you open the app, sound is playing. And now the brands have the ability to finally use that concept again. And finally, it's the reason people come here. It's inspire and joy. Like, people love to come to TikTok. You know, anyone can jump on. Hugh and the team can make content just as themselves and have fun as well. Anyone can jump in. I know Webprofits and the team are already making content, but it's made it accessible. You know, people normally were afraid to sometimes jump on platforms as well. But just because of how raw and organic this platform is, anyone can just jump on and be a player.
Big time. And I think there's something to say in the sense that TikTok is creating a paradigm shift in commerce, in the sense that traditionally commerce was not necessarily always a two-way conversation between a brand and a customer. It was someone would go, a brand would sell, and people would buy. Whereas now we're creating these insane communities on the platform. We're creating waves through communities, through a platform like this that is built to entertain and add value to people's lives.
Yeah. And people buy where they finding joy. Like, people buy where they're having fun as well. It's like why there's always that thing around Disneyland and why they're so successful is people enjoying it. Same is said for advertisement as well. But like to what he will talk on soon as well is why is that shift so different? And it's purely based on how this platform functions. And so we are built on that For You feed as well. And so if I was to ever pick up, let's say I pick up Ben's For You feed, I'd be like, Ben, what are you watching? This is completely different because it's personalized to the user. Same for you as well. It's like your feed identifies around what you like to enjoy, and it's so personalized based on that interest as well. So that's the reason that this shift is so dramatic. It's not, TikTok isn't built on a social graph, it's built on content. So it means today, if you were to jump on the platform, you'd have the same opportunity as anyone else who has a million plus followers as well. That shift is why it makes it so accessible for brands to jump on. And that is the crux of how TikTok is built as a platform, is on that For You feed.
And that, then when you're saying how accessible it is for brands, like, there really is the opportunity both on the paid and organic side for brands to interact on TikTok. Like, just because they're in the they're in the algorithm the same way, right? It's just a matter of how good the content is, that they create and how much value it provides for viewers. Exactly.
And I think like in 2023, Ben, it's like as purely TikTok organically, already there is a meaty opportunity for brands to find new users. And you add on paid as well, and we will touch on those concepts later. Yeah. It's a powerful combo. And I think that's what makes it so different is, we're not just saying, just come on and run ads as well. That supercharges it. But there's so much room to be found and growth to be found purely from organic on that aspect.
And I think as a marketer, one thing that I find really different about that dynamic there is that, a lot of social platforms that we've worked on, have the organic reach at the start. And then, as the paid platform kind of grows, the organic reach goes to zero. But TikTok is built around that organic reach being, based on great content. And so it's actually built into the whole model of the platform, which means that I think there is a real, reason for businesses to be investing in their organic platform that maybe, they'd be skeptical of from their experience on some of the not to be named platforms.
I think on that as well, that leads us to that idea and concept of we have an opportunity that we haven't seen in years on something like TikTok, or especially for new brands. There were brands that really built their presence on Instagram through, high prod influencers for a long time. And it's been a little bit of a journey for brands to kind of break through and build communities online. But because of the For You page, you can now access millions of people that you could never reach. And that organic algorithm is so strong that brands now have this opportunity that they haven't had the last 5 years. I don't remember the last time you could get, 20 million views overnight on these old platforms. And not to say that they're not relevant, but we just have a big opportunity in a platform like TikTok that maybe we haven't had in the past.
Yeah, and it's the shift that you're seeing now, not to name platforms as well, is why they're changing and adapting as well. If you were to open one of those platforms today, you're greeted by potentially nothing. Like you need to follow, you need to go out and seek to find what you want to see, or you won't be shown anything. Versus on TikTok, it is built purely like you wouldn't have to follow someone. You could just start swiping and it would start to understand your interest and start to build that. So that's why that For You feed is so prevalent for users, is it's so personalized to you just from the interaction that you have on it.
And we've seen brands transform literally overnight because of that, which is a pretty crazy thing when you think about it. Even like individuals' lives changing overnight, from things like book talk, from
Yeah.
influencers, all sorts of stuff. It's pretty amazing as a platform what that's doing. Um, yeah, it's something that we are very excited about, as you guys can all tell.
Yeah. And I think to double that as well, like that following feed, even though it is there, it does exist. And I think the best thing about this as well is it's taken it and it kind of personalized it. So like for a brand, and I know we're going to touch on this a lot in terms of how many times should you post, how frequently should you post, what's the best times to post as well. There's never the fear of if you were to right now put out 5 bits of content, that if someone was in the following feed, they'd see 5 bits of content in a row. It's still personalized. And so there's no impact on you just pushing out content as frequently as you want to as well. Is even in the following feed, it will highlight everyone you follow, but it will build it in a way that's still personalized to you as well. So it's that concept of just this experience, this platform is built for you in mind to make sure you're enjoying everything that you're seeing from creators, from brands, from ads, and everything in between.
And I think that following feed is really what contributes to lifetime value of a customer. When we talk about building a community on TikTok, it's the idea that someone is buying into your brand and your page is like a one-stop shop, almost like a mini TV channel for your brand. That's how I'm doing it for people nowadays. I don't want you to think about your following feed like you would for Instagram or Facebook. For TikTok, it's different. And the idea is that people are consistently engaging with a variety of content, not just the same kind of style of content. So they are constantly, I mean, your brand is constantly top of mind. So that they're not just buying once, they're buying multiple times over their journey following you, throughout that year. Which brings us to, I suppose, this concept of community. So I think the reason why we're talking about TikTok, as I said before, is because it's kind of transformed the way that people are interacting with brands. And to take a bit of a step back in the history of time, this is me going on a bit of a tangent, but I love thinking about where things come from and how things evolve over time and the human psychology behind it. So as human beings, we crave connection, right? When you got up this morning and you went to work, you most likely went to a local coffee shop that you always go to. And the reason being is because of the community and the feeling that's involved around that shop. And traditionally, that's how people bought products. They went to a physical location and there was a community around that location where they would consistently interact with, to consistently buy products over a period of time. But after COVID and over the last 5 to 10 years with e-commerce coming into play, the way that people are actually interacting and buying brands and products is online. So people don't talk to the owners. They don't talk to the shop assistants. They purely get to interact with your brand through the content that you're putting out online, which really shows us the importance of creating really good content. So instead of them speaking to the shop assistant, they're talking to that influencer or listening to that influencer or to that content creator that can relate to them, someone that's seen a transformation in their journey. So that's something that I'd really want to kind of show you guys, that over time, the way that we interact as a brand to our customers has shifted so much, which is why, lifetime value is a critical thing to be thinking about. Like Ben said before, there's a big difference between selling in the sense of a transaction versus a relationship. So with lifetime value, you can see that we're getting returning customers and multiple audiences. And so this concept of building a community is really about generating lifetime value. The thing about TikTok that I love from an organic perspective, and to be honest, on Instagram Reels, very similar concept, is that you're able to consistently interact with someone and build a two-way conversation versus hitting them with an ad that's very one-sided, very transactional. the difference between hitting someone with an ad and then buying from your brand once is there's not that level of relationship and connection that you would have in the sense of someone buying into you, following that customer journey from interacting and identifying with the brand to then going to the website, buying product, and consistently interacting with that brand and getting reminders on why this product is changing their life. So
Hugh, I'm just going to quickly, there's been a request, maybe you can lean in a little bit more. I hear you all right, but I just want to make sure everyone can hear you. So either, if you could speak up a little bit or lean in, just make sure we get all of the insights.
Amazing. Is that a little bit better?
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
I don't have the professional setup today. I'm just on my laptop in my office. So
I feel left out. Everyone's got the professional setup. Look at Ben's microphone and everyone.
Yeah. But we're getting there. And I suppose the concept that I'm really trying to share with you guys is the importance of innovating. So through my journey with creative converters and with our brands, we actually started back when people were really leveraging influencers and high production Instagram content. So I believe we were one of the first ever UGC agencies to start shooting content on our iPhones. And at that time, brands were really blowing up. And it was like this gold rush where brands could leverage off other people's communities. So these brands were leveraging off influencers' communities, right? Which worked really well for a point in time. But it's very important to highlight that these communities maybe weren't looked after. And again, these influencers were selling. And so we were losing trust with these influencers in the sense that customers kind of saw through the lens of being pushed all the time to buy. And that's where we really cut through into the market and we're able to create this reliable, authentic UGC content where you'd have a customer sharing and communicating their story with the brand. But now we've seen a massive shift again since TikTok has evolved, where people are now being inspired and engaged by entertaining and value-driven content. So even that concept of UGC has already shifted. And I've seen this across every platform where as an agency, we were pushing hard on direct response UGC content for a good 2 and a bit years. And since using TikTok-inspired content on Facebook, a massive shift in the way that we could be able to reduce acquisition costs for our clients. So I suppose what I'm trying to show you is how content has evolved over time and how important it is to keep evolving, to keep up with building that community, and to
How would you recommend for businesses that, that are seeing these trends and what you've talked about is a big shift on the platform that's happened over not that much time. The larger the organization, the more conservative they need to be with their brand in some respect, at least in terms of around the risk, right? And so I think a lot of businesses are unsure of how they can intersect with this type of marketing and still feel confident, that nothing's going to go wrong. Obviously, once you give a product to a customer, they can say whatever they want about it. So there's some element of, all sales and business involves uncertainty. But what do you talk to businesses about when they have these concerns?
I think there's a way for every brand to hold true to who they are as a brand while still leveraging the cultural nuances and trends of the platform. It's really important to have a really strong plan and content strategy that allows you to then do that. And that's something that I'm about to dive into actually. But to answer your question there, and this is probably something that Panther can jump in on as well, you just need to start. You need to start by creating content that isn't polished, that isn't perfectly curated, but content that speaks true to who you are as a brand. And I think rather than trying to copy what everyone else is doing and like all these different trends, start by sharing your story as a brand on the platform. And as long as you're executing the way where it's native to the platform, it's bound to work better than if you're just repurposing, your branded content or your polished content, just because of the way that it will slot into the platform. So I suppose this concept here is you need to obviously, crawl before you can run, if not fly. And so as a brand, I think there's almost this kind of fear and skepticism of this new platform because it's so different and it's forever evolving. But as long as you get on there and you start learning and start creating, you're going to be far better than if you're not on the platform.
Yeah, and I think to jump on that here as well, I think it's this piece that you touched on as well was like when you think of brands, traditionally they show up as themselves, no difference based on platform. They will just match the format, match the style, make sure that fits, but it's nothing personalized to that platform as well. And I know it's a bit of a further one from the content we're talking about here, but Telstra, for example, Telstra is Telstra. Everyone knows who they are. They know their ads. If you're at the movies, you always see them as well, and they show up as themselves. On TikTok, they've completely leaned in while keeping the trust that they have in terms of the platform. They want to instill trust in Australian businesses that like you can trust on Telstra's networks, our coverage, and everything in between as well. And there was this incredible one that they partnered with creators where it was touched on about all these spam texts everyone gets. Everyone here gets them. If it's a missing parcel, everyone's guilty. Like not guilty. Everyone has had them before. Yeah. So Telstra partnered with some creators and made just a spiff off that as well, and how Telstra protects now your users from that. And it's perfect. It gets the message across, but it is absolutely something that I would watch, even not even as an ad, just as a TikTok as well. And it's leaning into that kind of identity of like, we need to make sure that when we show up, we can show up with that flair of that platform. And that's a prime example of how you could do it as well. Keep your motto, keep your identity there as well. If your product is built on how good the quality is, weave that into your narratives as well. Like Hugh and the team have built that into what they've done with BondiBoost in terms of a product as well. And they show up in a way where it's like, how would a consumer actually use that product as well? And I think it's this piece, and it's not easy. It takes time. And that is, I think, a big thing that we'll touch on. Like, this is an investment in a platform as well, but that is to set you up in the long term. But it's being able to find your motto and then bring in that kind of style to TikTok into everything you do.
It does seem like, in particular, and this has been a theme actually over a number of sessions that we've had so far, which coming from a lot of performance marketers is somewhat surprising, but it's the right takeaway, which is you really need to understand your brand, who you are, what you want to say in order to be authentic about it. And TikTok is kind of the place where you will get called out if that's not the case, right? Yeah. But if you do know, then there's a way, like you were saying, Hugh, there's a way for your business to create the content that fits you.
Yeah. And the way that I want everyone that's listening right now to think about doing that is, firstly, what is your why as a business? And essentially, when you answer that question, you find your core message that needs to be spread through every single piece of content that you ever create. Also, how do you want your customers to be talking about your brand to their friends? And if you can identify those two things or key things, that's going to be the baseline for your whole content strategy on TikTok. And I suppose for this next element of our presentation, I want to talk you through a bit of a way to think about TikTok that might help you guide your decision-making on content strategy and how you're actually innovating and creating content. And when I talk about TikTok-specific content, this is content that you should be using on every single platform. I believe that TikTok is making waves in the sense of the way that people are consuming content, which again goes back to that concept of commerce and the way that commerce is changing with creativity and building community. So I suppose the way that we've always innovated and executed on creative is, firstly, we've taken inspiration from other brands and reinvented the wheel in our own way. So like Benny was saying, we've always practiced what we've preached. This video on the left was our most viral TikTok piece of content on Creative Converter's Instagram. It got over 2.5 million views, and it was a trend that other people were doing, and we remixed it so that it was our co-workers' problems being back in the office, and it kind of showed the behind the scenes of our team back at that point in time, just after COVID, in that Melbourne lockdown period. So you can see it's about taking inspiration and making it your own as a brand. I would also recommend always partnering with people that are young. My journey in running this agency with my co-founders has been in hiring a team of young, thriving people that literally spend 7, 8, 9, 10 hours a day on TikTok. And there are people out there that can do this for you, that you'll be able to bring into your team, that will transform the way that you communicate with your customers. I know a little bit about TikTok, I create on there, but I have people on my team that just think so differently in a way that I would never imagine I could communicate with a customer. And then the final thing that Ben was trying to was definitely saying before, that you kind of have to commit to this platform. I really believe in training your talent, from the people that are creating the content to the people that are writing your briefs to the people that are actually using the platform. If you're a brand and you're not taking the time to train your team and develop your team, you're going to be left behind in 2023. And so these are some really top line principles that I've always used with creative converters and working with our clients that have always helped us create and innovate. And I suppose the difference between a brand that's getting a couple million views and a brand that's not able to cut over 500 views is in their ability to execute native to TikTok. So that's a really key principle, and I think these concepts will help you actually execute.
So in terms of the training, that's an interesting one, because I think a lot of businesses probably work with influencers and almost see that as a channel as opposed to like partners in your marketing. And it seems like you're talking about really building a relationship with, the content creators, whether that, that is within your business or outside of your business, as part of your marketing. I'm like, how different is that from kind of what you've seen in the past, and what are some of the ways that you go about, first of all, identifying the right business, the right creators to partner with, and then building that relationship?
Yeah, I think to answer that question, the first thing to think about is we're at this point now where there's still a mix between creator talent and influencer talent. And I think it depends on who you're using and where you're using the strategy. From a creator talent perspective, which is really, really where creative converters comes into play, it's the idea that someone like a customer, let's say you've got a baby brand speaking to mums, you're going to be able to communicate with that customer far better if you use another mum. We will relate to that customer. And so to select the right talent, it's about someone that your customers can identify with or hold an affinity to. So an influencer or a creator. Then where the training comes into play, it's really about helping them understand that core message that we talked about in your brand, and helping them understand the principles of talking and communicating that are really clearly needed for you to execute this piece of content. So the more articulate, the more clear the information within a shorter period of time, the faster we're able to communicate and identify with your customers. And so the way that Creative Converters works is we actually don't write scripts. We train our talent on shooting for a specific structure to different styles of TikTok content. And we're always updating our TikTok libraries or identifying new styles. So that what it means is when that content's shooting or the talent's shooting, they're not reading off a script and it doesn't feel fake. It's about talking from their perspective about the product through the lens that we need them to. Does that kind of answer the question, Benny?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think there's a couple of things to dig into there, which I think we might come back to. But while you were talking there, it made me think actually about a very different type of marketing or advertising, which is like podcast advertising. And one thing I've noticed there is, when it really works, it's the host has used the product and just talks about their experience using it, and it just comes across really authentically in a way that I've run a lot of ads, and some highly successful and some very much not so. And I think like that authenticity is really becoming the differentiator across all marketing right now. And I can just see that in the approach that you're kind of building, around what you do on TikTok and around really the platform that TikTok has created.
Yeah. And Benny, it's like chat on some podcasts. Like I feel like most people have read Tim Ferriss' 4 Hour Workweek. His podcast as well. The way he talks around like a product, he's used it. Like it's tried and tested as well. And I think that's what Hugh and the team and what brands are striving to do as well. Is like when someone is talking about a product, if that's UGC created or from a consumer created as well, they've actually, you can tell they've used it. Like it's them talking from their perspective. I think there's a great example coming up as well, where it's like really diving into like, I've used this product and this is what's happened as well. It's that shift. And I think just one thing on this topic, and I know it's a big one as well, is that piece around working with creators as an identity for a brand as well. The shout out, the classic Duolingo, where that just became the mascot. Same thing can be done for brands as well. And I know Kelvin talked about it earlier in the comments, but Woolworths, they brought in a younger creator who just became the identity of the Woolworths brand. And that is what everyone knows as well. That's how they broke into this thing, is bringing someone in who can really be the face of it and really understand it. Now, it doesn't work all the time, but for certain brands with that style, it can absolutely be the way forward.
Hugh, I want to just go to one of the questions in the chat, because I actually had a similar question in my head as well. Can you just explicitly state the difference between a creator and an influencer?
Of course, yeah. From my lens, an influencer is someone that you're utilizing to leverage off their community. So someone that is influencing their followers and they're posting through their platforms to sell essentially your product. I see a creator as someone that is creating content. From Creative Converter's lens, it is an everyday person, and they might not necessarily be leveraging their influence or their following, but more their relatability for your brand to run through their paid advertising or through their organic account. And that's kind of how Creative Converters has always worked. We've used real people to tell the stories of the brand to connect to real customers.
Yeah, awesome.
So they see someone that looks like them, that speaks like them, rather than this out-of-world model or influencer that they feel like they can look like or be like or aspire to be like.
And then I think this is that's kind of where, what I've seen is, there was this whole kind of ecosystem, and we got down to like micro influencers, and like, we're really trying to break it down into, different types and be able to, differentiate between them. But really what you're talking about is like, there's people who can go out and create great content for your brand, whether they have a huge following or not. And, those are the people who are going to communicate the most effectively, for you. And so you really are building relationships and just training, those creators in order to speak, more effectively on behalf of the brands.
Yeah, exactly. So Benny, you were talking about podcasts before. The concept that you are articulating then was around actually this concept, edutainment. It brings us to the idea that rather than sell, what's working in communicating to customers is firstly entertaining. And then through that lens, we can subliminally educate people on the power of the product or the brand, which is why I think TikTok content is working so well in paid ad settings right now on Facebook and Instagram and on all platforms, because people are sick of being sold to. They want to see something that's actually giving them value. And so the reason why a podcast works is through the lens of education and entertainment, they're able to communicate through this place of authority. If anyone's been hit by any of the Creative Converters ads, you'll see that a lot of them are podcast format because it feels authentic and it feels real. And so that could be an easy content pillar that everyone in this call right now integrates into their TikTok strategy. You'll see, I don't know about you guys on your For You page, but my TikTok, every 4 or 5 TikToks is from a podcast. And so it should be about making education fun. It should be about storytelling, and it should be about showing how a product works. So that concept that I said before about a customer living vicariously through someone else is critical, because they're not going and talking to a shop assistant. So for someone to make an informed decision about a brand, they need to see what it's actually going to do for their body, for their hair, for whatever they're looking for, right? And if they can see someone else like them using it in a way that works, they're far more likely to buy it. So there's so many ways that you can communicate, and I suppose that concept of edutainment is something that's really what's taking the world by storm right now in 2023, and that's a philosophy that Creative Converters has with every single piece of content that we make now. And that's really the new style of content, edutainment, rather than quote-unquote juicy. Did anyone have anything to add on that one, or any questions?
No, I think you absolutely nailed the head. I think one of the things that we see a lot is, like, let's plug Webprofits for a second as well. When the content you put out, right, it's just giving value. You're not drilling into exactly what you do. You're giving value from day one as well. And I think that's a big thing here, is just putting out stuff that is entertaining. I think like if you talk about podcasts for a second as well, it's that snippet into that world that you can kind of learn into as much as possible for it. I think it's the big thing, and like I'll throw back to you, Hugh. It's like you start with value. It's absolutely fundamental to bringing and driving content on TikTok.
Yeah, and the reason why is, and you can probably talk to this as well, Ben, with the organic algorithm, is it's based on engagement. So watch time, completion rate, likes, shares, saves. The only way that we can get people watching content longer and multiple times is through value. If they're actually getting something from watching that full video or that piece of content, and not the value in your value proposition as a brand, but the inspiration, the education, the motivation, the heartwarming thing that they took from that video. So this is the key thing that I want everyone to take away from today. If you take one thing from this presentation, it's value. And if you're not creating content that provides your customers with value, it's never going to work from a paid or organic basis.
And when you're talking about value, do you want to dig into like, what are the types of value that you can create for customers?
Yeah. There are some really typical styles of value that really work right now. As we've been highlighting, education's a big one. So you can add a lot of value to people's lives by educating them on the power of how something can work. But again, it needs to be done in a way where it's done through this entertainment lens. Inspiration is a great piece of value. You're changing the way that someone sees themselves or their lives, and they'll be inspired to go and take action. Something like aesthetic value is another form of value. There's a lot of this on TikTok. You'll see ASMR videos. You'll see beautiful styling videos. You'll see house transformations. Heartwarming is another beautiful one. A lot of these videos of mums and their babies start blowing up because of how beautiful it is to watch. Comedy is another form of value, or humor. You're essentially giving something to someone rather than pushing something on them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that's exactly it right there, because I think a lot of businesses might, not think about the value they add through their marketing, at least not the right way. A lot of times it's kind of like, how am I going to move them through the funnel? How am I going to get the right piece of information in front of them? The type of marketing that we're really talking about across this whole conference is built around the idea of delivering as much value as you can across the whole consumer experience. Once you get to kind of like post-purchase and the retention side, like a lot of times that value will be through engagement with the products and or services that your business might have. But in the lead up, in the as you're building your brand with a consumer and getting them interested in your product, understanding the different value that you can still offer them there, I think is a really important concept for businesses to get in order to be effective.
Yeah, so right. And I think everything when it comes to marketing strategy really starts there. And when we think about content and community, they're going to be buying into your brand by the value that you provide for every piece of content. So that then leads us to how we actually ideate and create content and strategies for our clients. So we start with value. We then think about how do we provide value through the lens of the brand in a way where it's both proactive in the sense of sharing your brand story, as well as reactive in the sense of leveraging off the cultural nuances of a platform like TikTok. So I suppose with every content strategy that we build, it's about value, proactive versus reactive content. Proactive more, again, just being about the brand, who you are. I'll see a lot of brands just focusing on trend-based content. And to be honest, although you're going viral, the quality of those views isn't strong because you're just literally leveraging off a trend. You're copying what everyone else is doing, and you're actually not going to get followers because when they go back to your page, they're not going to know who you are. So there's no back to the brand, which is why it's really, really important to have a balance of proactive and reactive content on TikTok. And as your content strategy evolves, that's like probably the most critical factor. And then that comes down to the next step of the phase when you guys are thinking and building your strategy for your content is building a really strong testing framework. Because Creative Converters started in the lens of Facebook ads, we've always used data to validate our decisions, even at a creative organic level. So we typically will start with value, move through 2 different styles of content, and then come up with a range of different ideas under maybe 4 or 5 specific content pillars and test and iterate every 2 weeks. So use the data to validate your weighting on different content pillars. I know this might be a bit of an overload, but the whole concept is essentially if you're one-dimensional with your testing framework, for example, you're just pushing product information, your TikTok might actually feel like more of a sales channel than an educational, entertaining, value-driven, like one-stop shop for your brand. So it's really important to be diverse in the way that you're creating your content, which is why we typically will build some traditional pillars that you can see here as a starting point. And these will all be different for every brand, but these are some key pillars that you can start with TikTok to iterate under and to create different pieces of content under every week and test. And once you're figuring out what's working, do more of it. Do more and more and more, and then create new ideas and test new concepts every month so that you're consistently evolving.
I think this is an area where, this is the way you're talking right now is quite different from how businesses often hear about brand and about building community, because you're talking really about also have a structured approach, test, be systematic about how you go about it, identify the winners, double down on those. Like that's the marketing talk that I'm used to. And it's like, I love that gets still applied to, really the approach that you take to building a brand. It's not just kind of the approach that you take to, driving the sale in the end.
Big time. Yeah, I think it's, you need to know what's working, right? And I think this is what I see a lot of brands doing wrong. When I have conversations with people about their current TikTok accounts, it's normally that there is no testing framework, or, this concept of kind of throwing darts at the dartboard and just hoping that content sticks. People are starting in the dark every new month of work, and we need to be going somewhere. We need to be validating what's working and evolving on that to improve and grow.
And what do you use to test? Like, what are the metrics that you're looking at, when you build this structure?
Yeah, well, Benny will touch on this in a second, the intersection between paid and organic in the TikTok platform. But typically with a lot of our strategies, we're putting spend behind organic content through Spark. Spark is a platform in TikTok that allows you to boost organic content. We'll talk about this in more detail, but essentially we look at views, CPMs, clicks, the engagement on the videos from an organic lens. And then when we're talking more from a paid lens, it's obviously all your traditional metrics like cost per acquisition, cost per click, click-through rate, ROAS. So there's a bit to be thinking about, and we can dive into the data in a bit more detail. But Benny's going to dive into the importance of, I suppose, how organic and paid are kind of intertwined now, especially with a platform like TikTok. So we'll get on that in a second.
Nice.
Benny, from TikTok side, did you have anything you wanted to add on these concepts?
No, I think it's solid. I think it's one of the biggest things, and it's a shift as well as, as more platforms come on, and just speaking generally as well, there's always be the priority channel. Like it is like we have to make sure on this channel is always content as well. And I think the biggest shift right now is where is that priority set? And it's still, I would say, for many brands on legacy, is whenever something pops out, we need to make sure it goes across the page, the Insta, and all those parts as well. Where TikTok's a piece where what Hugh talked about as well, absolutely you're going to put out content on your products and stuff as well. But when you want to do stuff that is just about the business behind the scenes, and there's a few comments on this as well, TikTok's the place to do it. That's where you really start to build that identity as a brand. You're not just out there to just push the product. You're out there to sell them and bring them into that experience of like as a community as well. So be honest, be behind the scenes, talk about the brand. If someone is just shooting some fun content like you and the team have, put that out. There's no bad side about this as well. And it's like we'll talk on soon, but it's this big intersection where your brand account, your business account, is the fundamental foundation for everything they do on TikTok as well. So I'll pause and we'll jump into that soon as well.
Yeah, I might just take a step back and let you guys roll with it for a bit because we got about 17 minutes left, and I want to make sure you get to your content. So yeah, go for it.
Cool.
Welcome in, folks.
We got some juiciness to dive into. So I've been super privileged to be able to work with BondiBoost over the last few months. And this has probably been one of our more successful brands that we've worked with, in taking them to reach about 5 million views a month. It's been a journey, and it's been, as I said, a content strategy and a framework that we've put into place that has really paid off. And I suppose I put this here to kind of show you guys what's possible. On TikTok, you have the power to literally reach millions and millions of new customers and build an engaged community that you can benefit from. From an organic level, this is the foundation that is going to set you up for the next 5 years. I really believe that TikTok is going to create a paradigm shift in commerce and e-commerce with the new features that are coming out. We're seeing live streaming happening in China on the platform of Douyin, where people are making hundreds of thousands of dollars a day on, people live streaming on the platform. Benny's going to touch on some new updates, but essentially what I'm trying to say is we need to start here with this conversation. And the way that we were able to execute and find success was through that framework that I just showed you guys. So I'm literally giving you the strategy that we've used for BondiBoost. Some principles that really worked for us were essentially to get this account to getting the consistency of reach, getting those followers, getting that attributed revenue from the platform. It's been about consistency. So we've literally been posting every single day for the last 12 months. It's been about consistently evolving what's actually happening with that consistency. So you can see before with that framework that we use, it's not just one style of content, it's all these different styles and figuring out what's working. We're using real people, real customers. And I think we figured out the content that worked the best were videos where customers could live vicariously through other people and see a hair transformation, delivered in a way where it was through the lens of an entertaining trend. So you'd have a girl covering the screen, you'd see her hair like it was. Maybe she had thin hair, and then she'd have thick hair. And you didn't really need to sell because you could essentially see what was happening. And those are the videos that went viral and actually did the most revenue. They were 8-second videos with before and afters, which is pretty interesting. So content is short. It doesn't always have to be short. I think there's a misconsensus that TikTok videos have to be very short. It's essentially back to the quality and what you're trying to communicate in the value of your content in the video. And if you can do it in a fast-paced, shorter format, it's probably most likely going to perform better. And then the other thing that we did with Bondi was we thought globally. This is a global brand. We can't just niche them down into the Australian market. So we used local talent from UK, US, and Australia to globalize the one organic account. And we're actually running 3 ad accounts from the one organic account so that we can actually target specific people and regions. So you can see that there's been a lot of thinking and there's a bit of a dichotomy to move to with this strategy. But these are the key principles that I kind of wanted to pull out from our learnings as a team to give to you guys to take into your own learnings for TikTok. So there's a bit of juiciness in there. Did anyone have any questions or wanted to add anything there?
Yeah, Hugh, I think the timing one, and we'll jump into this as well, is the timing one's really interesting. And I think the hardest thing around TikTok has been what is that time? What is the best length of a video as well? And one really funny one, again, jumping into a global brand here, Hilton just absolutely went against the grain. They just put out a 10-minute ad to say, "Would you watch this video?" And they partnered up with Paris Hilton because it's a classic, and they partnered up with a bunch of creators and made a 10-minute ad and put the bet on, "Would you watch this to the end as well?" And people did. And the reason is because they delivered content that was inspiring, engaging, and it was actually funny. People genuinely enjoyed that video as well. And so your content is as good as your ads can be, as long as good as they are engaging. So as long as there's something to keep them engaged, if that is what we'll talk on right here as well, then you can make them longer in that concept as well. So Hugh, I might jump into this as well. These are some of the ones that we think around in TikTok with making effective content. And it's something that we've tried and tested through various people as well. And it's these 6 principles. So say it direct, speak to the camera and break that fourth wall as well. See it fast. People want to see that product as well. And Hugh and the team use this all the time when showing that off. That seeds the second one, show it off, show how it actually functions and works. So if that's how it can transform your hair or do something, actually show it in theory. Shoot it simply. Everything that we do now and everything on TikTok is shot on a phone. I think that is so clear now. The best editing tool is the phone in your pocket. There is nothing more to that as well. This adds to a different layer of storytelling. These are the things around adding subtitles or captions where you can add more context and more engaging aspects of the screen to keep people engaged. And then finally send them off. What is that next thing they want to do? So I was to take this and then put that in the framework of, let's say, an athlete brand or a gym brand as well. You could go out there and just show the content, or you could show someone actually using that. So if it's a morning routine, which is a massive trend on TikTok and it always sometimes takes over. So they wake up and it's showing off their morning routine. So it actually has captions on screen. They're then getting changed and getting ready to head to the gym. So they're showing it off, they're seeing it. They're then actually shooting it simply. So it's in their POV. It's shot from their perspective as well as their morning routine. They're subbing it. So it has that thing that keeps them engaged the whole way through as well. And then it sends it off. People want to emulate what that was and how that morning routine set that person up for success. And that product was a part of that as well. So that is where that effective content can then come in and drive that all the way through.
Definitely. I love that. It's a really simple, easy way to think about creating good content. That again is about engaging your community. And I think the thing about TikTok that we kind of always hone back to is it's not about how great my life is. It's not about being perfect like Instagram. It's about being real and shooting simply. Most of the content that we're creating at CC is shot on an iPhone. It's not polished. So go and get on your iPhone tonight and see if you can create a TikTok with someone in your family or a friend. Post it and see what happens.
100%.
And I think the thing that we need to think about with TikTok, the reason why I believe TikTok is creating a paradigm shift is with its features in the way that you can create a two-way conversation between customer and the actual brand. And Ben, I know you're going to touch on what this actually means through the platform, but never before have we been able to talk to a customer like this. You know, you can actually reply to people's questions on videos through videos. So you'll have like a comment, like you can see on the example on the screen here. You can actually reply via the founder. You can reply with value, like you would at a store when you're going and talking to your customer as the founder. If you were running a physical store, you can do questions and answers. You can go live. We're seeing people drive immense value for customers through these two-way conversations and abilities. And I think that's why this platform has become so good for brands in building community. So Ben, do you want to talk about this and how you kind of view this through the lens of your experience with TikTok?
Yeah, I think it's this piece of sometimes, and there's probably so many questions in this right now. What do we make? What is the content that we do make as well? And I think these features like QA are actually, the customers are telling you what they want to see from you. So if it is a background of the quality of the product, or it's an understanding of how this would work in this scenario as well, if it's a question, again, like you said, you could just reply in a comment, and that is where that thread ends. Or it could become another piece of content that you then create. I think it's this piece of now on TikTok, and this shift that we're seeing is content isn't something where you plan your week, we're going to now shoot these many bits of content as well. It's something that happens dynamically. And again, there's a piece of, I think, ownership as a brand to say, hey, we don't have really a set schedule. Like Hugh said, you want to keep consistency, but don't tie yourself to having to shoot a schedule to put it out as well. Yeah. Right here is how you can make content immediately. And it's that easier way of thinking of this is how the shift is jumping to this framework.
Big time. And before I showed you guys a bit about the CC strategy, a big part of that, as I said, is proactive and reactive content. So for you guys, when we talk about reactive content, like Ben's saying, this could be a piece of reactive content. The way that we actually go and make sure we can be nimble and agile with brands is we get our creators to shoot a lot of like evergreen content or B-roll content. And the team might see a trend and go, oh, we've got all this B-roll footage, we could turn this into a trend and post it that day. So you might have your strategy. I know it might sound hard to still have a framework and still be agile, but the way that you do it is you have your framework and you have your proactive plan content, but then every month you might reserve 15 videos to being reactive content, like Ben saying, you can continually keep using.
Yeah, and Hugh, I'm conscious of time. I'm wondering if you want to jump to maybe some of the juicier bits as well around Spark ads potentially.
We got some sound on those. Yeah,
that's
videos because we've kind of talked a bit about creators for a while, so we'll get into some of the juicy stuff.
Yeah,
this is really where it starts. So do you want to dive into this, Benny?
Yeah, and I know this is a concept I think we've kind of alluded to throughout this as well, and that is that relationship between organic and paid. This is how you set up for long-term on TikTok as well. From organic, right now, there's value as a brand for going out and creating content. Just as the way TikTok is built as a platform, there is an amount of like actual potential there. From paid, that then allows you to dive into deeper brand exploration. This allows you to go more global with your targeting options as well. And we see these two as the key piece to driving long-term impact. And we'll talk on Spark ads in just a moment as well. But this is also how you then set up for further things like if that is retargeting of your business account followers, which is now a feature, so you can actually build that all around building that community, because that community is where you can build into unique targeting options and those different aspects as well. And your business account, it is your foundation. It is the house of what this platform will become in the near future as well. And so it's important to really dive into that. And we know that is because like the greater your organic reaches and the more you spend time investing in that, the more it can amplify then your paid efforts as well. So if you get organic and you get creating content, you'll then nail when it comes to actually moving into an ad side of the business as well for it.
Yeah, and I couldn't agree with this more. Like when you think about the nature of running ads, you're bidding for time, space, and attention in someone's feed. If you're not using that time, space, and attention effectively through good content, then you're not giving them a reason to go and engage with your brand.
Yeah.
So with Bondi, we combined Spark with organic, and it started laying out organic foundation. And so for those people that don't understand Spark ads in detail, Benny, do you want to dive into what it actually allows you to do and what the benefits are?
Yeah. Hugh, I think this is the spicy thing on TikTok. This is probably the big thing that people are using now as well, and that's Spark ads versus non-Spark ads. So essentially, what Hugh and the team are doing with Bondi is everything that they create organically, they then amplify as their ads for TikTok ads. So all their campaigns are using organic content that is transformed to a Spark ad. Now, why that's different? If you were to run an ad right now, which we would call a non-Spark ad, so you're just uploading content to TikTok Ads Manager. The video will go there. It will create essentially a identity, so not a real profile. So you'd upload your logo, you would add your brand name and things as well. But should they click on that, it will take them to your URL, to your landing page of choice. Now, I think the biggest thing on TikTok is that may not be the journey users were wanting to go on. They were wanting to explore your brand, dive into other videos, and that kind of touches on those pin to the top features, and there's a whole world in that we get into. But Spark Ads essentially allows you to amplify your existing content, so it streamlines your content creation, but it allows you to pick up followers, it allows people to explore your profile. It allows a more native journey on the app, and it really ties into where TikTok is headed is everything you create will become what you may use in your paid perspective. Now, I will add, if you're wanting to put something out that you don't think organically should be posted, you can actually not put it out. You can actually use it as a dark post while still retaining all the features of a Spark ad as well. I realize we're flying through it, but I believe Spark ads is one of the most important things. And Hugh and the team have already tried and tested that with BondiBoost as well.
Yeah, and I think the thing to think about here is you're hitting two birds in one stone. On Facebook, when you run ads, you don't keep that clout, you don't keep that authority, and you don't go back and see what ads are successful, right? Because you don't get to see them. With Spark, you go back to their page and you see all these amazing videos that have gone viral and videos that people are buying from. So you get to keep that collateral, which is a beautiful part of it. So that's one thing to think about. And if you guys are going to go on TikTok, I'd recommend starting organically. And then after a month or 2 or 3 months of organic approach, start spending on the platform and start trying to train that pixel to identify who your best customers are. And it's going to be consistently learning as you spend more. So that's something to think about. I think it can also just, like I've kind of just said, it helps you build this credibility that you haven't been able to build on other platforms. So I think there's been a lot that we've kind of dived into today, and I know we're kind of short on time. So Benny, I know you've got some tips from TikTok side for the viewers. Do you want to quickly run through these before we kind of wrap up?
Yeah, and guys, I realize there's a million things we could talk about on TikTok, and I'm glad we were able to dive into some certain ones today. But I think to reinforce what we talked about is start with business account. That is your foundation on TikTok, and there's a lot of things coming. And I know we won't have time today, but coming over 2023 is TikTok Shop. There will be a massive transformation in terms of shopping on this platform as well. That's already being tested in markets like the UK and Indonesia. That will come and streamline the actual journey of TikTok. Perfect. Yeah. So there's a massive shift that is coming as well. The second one will be through video shopping ads. So the ability to actually jump in and be able to check out on a external site where TikTok Shop is seamless and checked out on app as well. I realize it's a bit of a teaser, so we'll jump back today, but that is coming and that is going to shift the platform. And Ben, I realize we're short on time, so I realize we might have to call it there, but this is the screenshot, guys. This is the one to take a photo of as well.
Yeah.
No, I think we were optimistic with how much we could get through today. There's so many questions as well. What we might do, Hugh, Ben, I haven't talked to you guys about this, but we might even just try to find a time in the next week or so to do a little bit follow up where we can answer some of the questions in the chat, because there's some really great ones, and I do want to make sure that that we get to the bottom of of some of them. People have a lot of interest in TikTok right now, and clearly, quite a few questions. So for anybody who's watching, if you do have more questions, we're going to find a way to really, get that information to you. Hugh, Ben, thank you so much for this session. It was wide ranging, but I can tell a lot of people got tons of value out of it, which is the theme of the day. So we're going to be heading over to the next session shortly, and thanks everyone for hanging with us.
Thank you, team.
Appreciate it. Take care. Have a lovely day.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye. Nice, bro. Good job.
Nice.